Okay, hi everybody again. Today we are going to talk about one of the best technology integrated into CSS. It's Flexbox. But before we start, I'm going to ask you about your home task. What did you use to create your layout? I mean, global layout, header, footer, etc. things, or two columns layout, and also such element as navigation, for instance. Could you please add this information to the chat? For instance, it can be inline blocks or floats or positioning, for instance. Are you with me? Can you hear me? Inline blocks, okay. Display flex, great. Anything else? Okay. So, as I mentioned, today we are going to speak about Flexbox, and today format lecture will be a bit different because I'm going to share a lot of code examples and made some online coding. When we speak about Flexbox, in its time it was a very innovative technology because it solved a lot of front-end issues when you create layouts. So it was amazing technology, and when it appears, we started very active use it. 5 years ago, the situation was a bit different, but for now, it's super supporting by all browsers. As you can see, it's 98%, and almost all modern browsers support it without any prefixes. And of course, we have some issues in Internet Explorer, but for now it's okay. It's a first useful links, which just describes that it's a very useful technology. And another one that will be very helpful for you, it's a small cheat sheet which contain all properties which we are going to learn today. So also I added this link into presentation. So let's speak about Flexbox a bit more. Flexbox, as I mentioned, resolved a lot of issues. It resolves issues into two levels. First, it's a global level when you create global web page structure. As I mentioned, it's a header, footer, and two columns layout, three columns layout, etc. things. And low level, it's, for instance, some card items, some list elements, navigation elements, and etc. things. So it's very, using Flexbox create such elements is very simple. So your code became very clear, readable, maintainable, and it's super. So when we are going to use Flexbox, when it would be better to use it? If we're speaking about scaling, or for instance, some alignments, things like horizontal or vertical alignments, or if we are going to change order of our elements on the page, for all these purposes, we can use Flexbox. And At the beginning, let's imagine such situation if we have, for instance, three elements on the page, and on this picture is three colored squares, and for now it looks like we add display inline block with the width of each element, and by default we have left alignment, but for another case we can add right alignment for it, or for instance we can add space between these elements, but for now we don't know anything about flexbox, but it's still possible cases to resolve this task using for instance float or inline blocks. Or we can, for instance, increase size for the second element or maybe for the first element, and again it's still possible to resolve with the using all technologies. Or we can create, for instance, vertical layout, and the main idea that all these things we can do using float, inline block, and positioning. But as I mentioned in the previous lessons, all these things was created for resolving another tasks. But Flexbox was created to resolve directly these particular things. I mean, creation, layout elements, and to do it in a very simple way. When we speak about Flexbox, we should speak about basic concepts. And tell the truth, it's very simple. All elements are located inside main container. It's a global, big Flexbox container. Each element inside of this container we call flex item. So it can be one flex item, or it can be two or more flex items, doesn't matter. It's two elements for Flexbox. In addition, basic concept includes axis. So Flexbox model includes two axes. Its main axis, which allocated horizontal way, and cross axis. It's a vertical direction of elements. And when you create layout using Flexbox, you have to always remember about these concepts. I mean about axis, main axis and cross axis, direction and position. It's very important, and in the future examples you will see that you always should remember about these two things. When we speak about Flexbox properties and about Flexbox technology in general, it's tell the truth, it's also super simple, because all properties can be split into two big groups. It's container properties and flex items properties, and each part contain 5 main properties, and we are going to learn this information and use it. So in the future it's just a combination, and as a result we can combine them and receive another behavior of our layout. So let's make maybe some small piece of code. Yes, And first of all, we talk a bit about property display flex. For the examples, I'm going to use my editor and just a browser. Okay, I hope that you use something like Visual Studio Code and such plugin as Live Server, because it's very helpful and it's just enough for you to open your HTML code and open it with Live Server. And all changes will be automatically applied for your layout, so you don't need to refresh your web page each time. So I'm going to use this combination for our lesson. So as an example, it's a basic example for all future examples. I'm going to use one main wrapper with the class flex container and a couple items with the common class flex item and item from 1 to 8. We just split our n element on different blocks with a piece of content and with different colors. And as you remember, div element, it's a block element, and it means that the width of these elements, it's a full screen width. And this is default behavior. But if we add property display with value flex, we receive another result. And for now, we can say that all our 8 flex items are located inside the main. Maybe it would be better to also open inspector. Something like here. And show you the result. So we have flex container. It still takes full screen width. And inside of it, we have 8 elements, but for now, the size of these elements is different. That's because when we add property display flex for main container, our element start to take space of content inside. It means that if I, for instance, remove one from the first element, as you can see, is it will be small red, I don't know what is it, element with padding. So to remove it from our page at all is just enough to remove padding. So please remember, when you add display flex for main container, element start to take space of the content. So we can increase numbers in the first element. As you can see, it start to grow. Another property, it's inline flex. For now, our flex container take full width of our screen. But if we add inline, it would be the same behavior as inline block. So again, container will take only space of its content, so content inside. And this is the first property, how we can apply Flexbox model for our layout. Okay, the same behavior. And now we are going to talk about Flex container properties. First of all, it's flex direction. So this property helps to specify how items are placed in a flex container, defining in the main axis. So Okay, for now we can close it and here. Next direction. As you can see, we have a couple properties. It's column, column reverse, row, and row reverse. By default, these properties support value row. So in this case, doesn't change anything. It's value by default. So using property flex direction, again, we can change direction of our main axis. I remind you that main axis is the horizontal axis. But we can change row to reverse row. As you can see, for now, our elements are on the right side on the screen, and we change order. That's because by default, main axis has direction from left to right. And when we apply row reverse, it means that we rotate this axis to 180 degree. So for now, direction of main axis, it's from right to left. That's why we have almost the same behavior, but with another direction of main axis. When we apply column, ta-dam, in this case, we rotate our main axis to 90 degree. So now our main axis goes from top to bottom, and it's for now it's vertical. And the same behavior is we add revert something column reverse. Yes, we change the order of elements because for now our main axis goes from the bottom to top. It's property flex direction, so we can change direction of our main axis. I'm going to skip these slides because I'm already to show you this behavior on a real example. So it's just this presentation, some kind of cheat sheet for you. Yeah, flex direction, we change direction of our main items, and that's why we have such behavior of inner elements. The next, flex wrap. To see how it works, first of all, we need maybe to uncomment this, remove this, and let's, for instance, add some width for each element on the page, and let's set it to, I don't know, 300 pixels. And as you can see, the real size of this element is not 300. For now, it's 53 pixels. If we remove, it will be 92 pixels, but not 300. And this is the behavior of Flexbox. It means that we have a special property which allows item elements move to the next row. So we add flex wrap. By default, it's value no wrap, so nothing changed. But if we add value wrap, we can create multiple rows layout. So for now, the size of each element is 300, so we can increase it to maybe 400 and receive 2 columns layout. And if we start to change size of our screen, we will receive another behavior. So by default, our size is 400, and when space on the right side will enough for other elements, they will be moved to right side. If space is not enough, they will be moved to the another rows. So this is the behavior. And additional value, it's wrap reverse. So in this case, again, we change the ordering and the counting starts from the bottom to top. So flex wrap allow item elements move to the second, the third, to another rows and create multiple lines layout. Okay, justify content. So for now, we are going to talk about alignments inside of main container. Again, we speak about container and justify content. So what properties we have? First of all, we have flex start. In this case, I remove this width for elements to show you the result. So flex start, it's a default property for justify content, or maybe let's improve our layout and that height. Yeah. Again, I just inspect to show you why it happens. It's just we add this property 100 viewport height for flex container to increase the height of it. We don't change anything inside of flex model. So justify content by default, it's a flex start. It's a property to help us add alignment for elements along main axis. Again, main axis for now it's horizontal axis. We can add flex end. And in this case, all our elements will move to the right. Also, we have value center. And all our elements will be positioned in the center of main axis, or in our case, in the center of our document. In addition, space between behavior. The next first elements is located on the left side. Last element is located on the right side. Another element located between them, and all free space will be splitted in proportion, so this size will be the same between all elements. This approach is this approach, I mean, justify content with space between, is very useful when you create some layout and you need to alignment to element, and one should be on the right side, another one on the left side. What I mean, I'm going to show you. If we commented these two elements, as you can see, for now we have only two elements, but one is here, another one on the right side. So for instance, I don't know, it's a very common case when we need to add some header for model window. So it can be a model window title, and here something here can be a cross icon to close this model window. So it's very common case. Another property, space around. Almost the same, but for now we have a free space on the right and on the left. And again, this space between each element are the same. I would say that when we use space around, for each element, we add the same margin on the right and on the left. But the main, I would say, main behavior inside of Flex container, it's not the margin collapsing as a common layout. So in this case, margin will be calculated, and we, as a result, we have a sum of two margins. So if we, for instance, have this space on the right, it means that between of the element we have double space as we have on the right or on the left. And the last one, it's space evenly. In this case, all free space will be splitted between elements, and we receive the same empty space for each element. And of course, if we start to change the size of our window, as you can see, the size of element is not changing, but free space is decreasing. It's a justify content property. And again, all cases which we mentioned. The next one, align items. This property defines how space is distributed between items in Flex container. But in this case, we are speaking about cross-axis. So again, we have main horizontal axis and cross vertical axis. So align items. Again, a bunch of properties, but in this case, property by default is stretch. So it helps to Flex element take full width of Flex container. If we change it to Flex start, it's almost the same that we have with justify content. But again, cross axis goes from the top to bottom. So here is the start of this cross axis. That's why all elements are positioned at the top of the screen. If we change to center, just center. They will be moved to the center of cross axis, or in our case, in the center of our web page, but in this case, in a horizontal way. And the last, flex end. For now, our element will be positioned at the bottom. So this is the end of cross axis. That's why we have such result. Okay. Flex start, yeah, flex end, stretch by default, center. And one case, it's a baseline. One more case. So baseline. But if we add this property for our flex container, you can see difference between baseline and flex start. Behavior is the same, but how we can see the result of work of this value? Very simple. For this goal, for instance, we take second element or first element and increase font size, for instance, to 50 pixels. And for the second element, let it be 200 pixels. And as you can see, for now, somewhere here, I mean, under the number, we have a baseline. And when we apply items, align items baseline, it means that all items inside container will be aligned based on this baseline. For now, if we change flex item to flex start, you will see the difference. It's just flex start. We start from the top, move to the bottom, and in this case, we receive top alignment, I would say. I hope that you got this idea. It's not a very useful and very common case, but you should remember about this possibility. Okay, the next property, align content. We speak in our previous examples, let me hide it, only about one row. But let's uncomment size of elements and allow them move to the next line. Okay, and maybe let's clear, or let's maybe it will be enough for now. Okay, width 100, flex and flex wrap. So addition property, it's align content. So using this property, we can add alignment for multiple columns layout. Again, we apply this property for flex container. By default, again, value is stretch, so nothing changed. along cross axis, our element is growing. So they take all full height. But if we change it to flex start, again, the same values as for another properties, and in this case, it's very easy to remember all of them. So now our element will be positioned at the top. The same center. It's a center. Pretty easy. And flex end, indent. And in this case, we can add, for instance, stretch we already have. Center, center, center. And for this case, we again using combination of these two properties. So align content or justify content, we can put in the center of our page a bunch of elements. So it's super easy and without any addition tricks, without pseudo elements or some positioning. And again, we receive a very flexible layout. So as you can see, it transforms from 4 columns on the big screen to 3 columns on, for instance, tablet screen. Here we have 2 columns. And 1 column. Difference between align items and align content. When we speak about align items, it helps to add alignment for elements which are located only in one row. Only one row when we remove this property flex wrap. But if we speak about inline content, it's property for multiple row content, and without flex wrap property, this property is not working. So align content for multiple line content. Align items, it's just for one row layout, I would say, one row content. Okay. Flex start, flex end, and also we have space between, so it helps to split free space between two multiple rows content and between our rows. It's addition value, and again center. And these are all properties of flex container. Very simple. So again, display flex or inline flex help us to apply flex model for our layout. Flex direction, set direction of main axis. Flex wrap, help us to create multiple rows content. Flex flow, I didn't mention this property, but in a simple way, it's shorthand for flex direction and flex wrap. For instance, in our case, let's remove this flex. Flex flow. And as you can see, we have already some hints. So in our case, we can add column, or maybe, and enough. So for flex column, we can use just one property. It's not necessary to use another, but the second, it's flex wrap, and in our case, it can be wrap. Nothing changed because we set column, but if we change to row, again, we receive multiple rows content. So just combination of two properties. Justify content help to set a line of elements along main axis, align items, set a line along cross axis, and align content. It's for alignment of multiple rows elements. Very, very simple. Okay, and a couple words about flex element properties. First, it's align self. Again, we continue topic about alignment, and when we speak about align self, we can, in this case, we can override alignment for one particular item. What I mean, let's again open our layout, remove maybe, let's keep it. Okay, and remove flex row. Super cool. And let's take second element. And let property align align self. And move it to center. Or, for instance, we can take third element and move it to the bottom. Flex end. First elements and another, it's elements with the shrink property. But align self help us to change alignment of one particular item. So in this case, we use not a common class with the flex item, we use a unique class of each element. In our case, it's item 2 and item 3, and change alignment for each of these elements. Okay, order. Very interesting. Let's again remove it. Maybe remove just property. So by default, all flex element goes into normal document flow. It means that they go from the left to the right. It's as in markup. But let's imagine situation if we need to change the ordering. For instance, now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but we need to change anything. In this case, we can use very simple order. And this property take a number. It can be negative number, 0. It's value by default. And another more than 0 values. So if we add value, for instance, -1, our second element will be moved to the left. The same behavior for the third element, if we add again -1, it also will be moved to the left, and it goes after 2. If we want to put third element before 2, we should increase its order or decrease it to -2. So in this case, we receive 3, 2, 1. The same behavior with the positive values. For now, we have 3, 2, 1, and let's move 4 to the end of our list. As I mentioned, by default, order value is 0. But if we change this value to 1, our 4 element will be moved to the end of the list. The same situation if we add order for 5th element again. So now we have 3, 2, 1. It's -1, -2. Then goes 6, 7, 8 with zeros by default, and 4, 5 with 1 and 1. And again, if we want to receive not 4, 5, but 5, 4, it means that for fourth element, we should increase order value, for instance, 2. Ta-da! And in such very easy way, we can change ordering of all our elements. So we have on the screen multi-columns layout, which contain 8 elements, and we can easily change ordering all of it. So it's super clear, super easy, and if you work with inline elements or with float elements in scope of your home task, I mean web dev page, I suppose that it will be difficult to imagine how we can apply such behavior, how we can create such layout using inline blocks or float. But with Flexbox, it's super easy. And it's was order property. The next big property is flex. Yes, just flex property. But actually, it's a shorthand of 3 additional property. It's flex grow, flex shrink, and flex basis. Let's speak a bit about each of it. So flex basis, it's a property which help us to set size of flex item. A very good question, why we need this property if we have, for instance, width or height. Very, very good question, and how I can show you the result. Well, let's imagine situation for now. We have a container and we have items with width is equal for 400. When we set width for element, it means that we set it horizontal size, only horizontal. In this case, for instance, we can change flex direction to column. And it means that size of our elements in a horizontal way will be 400. And in vertical height, we didn't set anything, so it means that it will be height of content inside. Of course, we can set height to apply the same behavior. And yes, it's not 400 because, as you remember, we need to additional property. It's flex wrap with value wrap. Yes, for now it's big squares with the width 400 and with the height 400, but it is a very, I would say, complicated. It's not very flexible to set width and height for elements, and creator of Flexbox model think the same. That's why was integrated property. In our case, we can use just simple flex, or for now, flex basis. And we can set 100. And now we can remove to these properties. And it means it size depends where our main axis, where our main axis. For now, it's a column. So axes go from the top to bottom. That's why height of each element will be 400 pixels. If we change it to row, in this case, not a height, but width of each element will be 400. So that's why I set the size of element, not the width or height of element. So it's help to set size of element into two directions for along of main axis, but in horizontal or vertical way. Also, we can, okay, let's speak about it a bit later. It's also interesting. Flex grow. This property will help elements take a free space. What I mean, again, let's remove this property by default. Hi, it's okay, and let's remove these 5 elements. Okay, we have flex basis. We can remove it. So for now, this size, the width of our flex item, all of flex item, it's the size of content inside of it. Let's add flex grow. Now, without any properties. As you can see, we have these small elements on the left side of our screen, and we have a lot of free space, which now we are not using. But if we change flex grow to 1, for instance, this free space will be splitted between these 3 elements. If we add one more element, again, the size of each element will be decreased, but again, free space will be distributed in an equal way between our elements. Again, we commanded flex grow. We have, this is the basic size of these three elements. We can uncomment, for instance, flex basis and set it to 200. Yes. So size of each element is 200. But we have free space, and this free space we should use. So in this case, flex grow will help us. Super cool. And also flex grow can be used only for one particular element. Let's take, for instance, second element. Copy class. And edit. And for now, let's increase value from 1 to 2. As you can see, the second element became a bit bigger. It means that, again, we have, I hope you remember, we have a free space. When we add flex grow, this space will be split between three elements. But if we add flex grow, for instance, 2 for second element, it means that the second element will take this free space twice. That's why it's not a bigger not a bigger twice than 1 or 3, because it takes not, we set not a size of element, but splitting of free space. It's some kind of proportion. So we can add for third element flex grow 3, and it will be bigger than another one. So it can be more, and more. And one interesting thing, if we have more free space, it will be more visible. But if we decrease size of our content in some point, the size of each element will be the same, because we have flex basis, which we set into 200. It's some kind of percent. Yes, we can say that it's percent, but in a good way to say that it's a proportion of splitting. So it's 1 part, 2 parts, 6 parts of free space. Because again, before we set all of these properties, we work only with white space. In this case, it's very small, but in this, we have a lot of free space, and this space in a proportion will be split between these three elements. And proportion we define in a flex grow. So it's 1, 2, and 3. Cool. The last property of general property flex, it's flex shrink. Behavior almost the same, but in a different way. So let's change again. 1 is the smallest, then goes second, and third on the last. We can change it to shrink. and again. Let's increase size of element to show it. Yes. Okay, what we have, if our mix minimum value, again, for each element, it's 500 pixel. And it will be true if we have enough space on the page. As you can see, we change flex grow to flex shrink. We have empty space. Now we don't work with this space. We don't split it. Now the size of our elements is 500. And this is the case when we have enough space. But if this space started decreasing, as you can see, our third element is the smallest. So flex shrink set how many space elements ready to share with another one if on the screen is not enough space. So we set 6 for third element. It means that it takes all possible space of itself if our screen size will be very small. For instance, for our first element, it's flex item with the flex shrink 1. It's very greedy element, and that's why it's the wider, and it's, I would say, it's not ready to share its space with another elements. So in this case, we work with the space of element, not a free space of the container. So if we have enough screen size, each element will take 500. But if size will be like this, third element always ready to share some space with another elements. And this property is flex shrink. And as a result, flex grow, flex shrink. Here is the explanation of it. Yes, and the final property, as I mentioned, it's a flex. So it contains flex grow, flex shrink, and flex basis. So in our case, we can comment this and this. So it's just shorthand of flex grow, flex shrink, and flex basis. And in a real production project, usually you can see this short variant. And it was all properties for flex items. Again, using order, we can set different order for all elements on the page. Align self help us to set personal alignment for each element. Flex grow. In this case, we set how free space in container will be split between flex items. Flex shrink show us how much space will be shared between flex element if we don't have enough space on the page. Flex basis set default size of element in flexbox container, and the combination of flex grow, flex shrink, and flex basis is just a flex property. And In a summary, yes, I added a couple items here. So as you can see, Flexbox, it's a super cool technology which help us to work with the big layout elements and help us to create global layout structure, and also help us to work with the small elements. Okay, and before we move to real layout example, you can give your questions into a chat if you have it, of course. Oh, I mentioned about it at the beginning of this lesson. For this, for this purpose, I use the Visual Studio extension live server. So you need to load this extension, open your index.html, click right button, and open it with the server. I suppose that it's not question to me, but I would say that it's okay if it's not necessary to update your WebDev layout using Flexbox, because for Flexbox will be the separate task. So WebDev, as I know, Anna, please correct me if I'm wrong, but
yeah, Evgeny, you're right. The web dev task is just for core HTML and CSS. The next one task will be for Flex or Grid.
okay. If no more questions, let's make some magic. I prepare a couple real examples, real cases for you. It's 3 columns layouts on model window, media object, and navigation sidebar. We also share a repository link with you with these examples. And let's create something interesting. First of all, let's open markup and take a look what we have here. It's a very good example how using Flexbox we can create flexible layout in a very simple way, but this is the very common structure we can be reused from project to project. Okay, first of all, inside of body we have, as usual, our Flex container, and inside this container we have a header, main part, and a footer. It's main sections, general sections, and in the main, we also have two asides, and between asides, we use the section with the main content. Let's create, for instance, 3 columns layout, and you can compare how you do this task when you work with WebDev. Okay, here we can close, and this close too, and example 1 CSS. As you can see, for now our CSS is empty, and again by default we have a behavior for div elements. Let's make some magic, as I say. At the beginning we set display flex for our flex container, and for now we already have something looks like a real layout. Again, for now we have 3 global section. It's header, it's main, and it's footer. And it would be very comfortable for us to change direction of our main axis to column. So for now, main axis goes horizontal, but we want to going to change it to vertical. And we add flex direction and change it to column. Cool. Almost the same what we have at the beginning, but with some pluses. Let's now work with the main section, because for now we already have header, which take a full screen width, and have a footer, which also take full screen width. And in this case, we are going to work with the main section, which contain 3 additional sections. So let's add some styles for main. Again, one important thing that I forgot to say you is that all flex item can be turned into flex container. It's very simple. We just add for main item. For now, it's a flex item property display with the value flex or inline flex. In our case, it would be flex. And our main container became a flex container. And for now, let's increase its size to 1 using flex scroll. Okay, nothing changed, but in the future it will help full. Why it's important? Why we set this flex item? Very simple, because to make our layout is more real, we can add minimum height for it. And again, we can set 100 viewport height. So for now, we have main part, which allocated between these 2 elements. But also we have a free space here, and we have 2 asides, between them main. Let's increase maybe I don't know what we have, section with the main. Section with for instance, flex, I don't know, 3. Oh, super cool. And by default for each aside, just don't break anything in somewhere. One, nothing changed, but for now it's a bit clear. So we set size for section. It take 3 parts of free space and 1 part for each aside. So for now it looks like a real layout. Yes, we have a header, we have a footer, and the main section with the 2 aside and the section with main content. And for now, it's not as super flexible because we still have 3 columns layout for mobile phone, for instance. Let's change this situation, add some media query. For instance, screen and max. I don't know, let it be 650. And for this resolution, let's change our main section and transform it to a column. Cool. And now here we are. We have transformation. So for mobile phone, we have a 1 column layout. Goes header, aside, main, aside, and footer. It's if our width of the screen is less than 650. But if we start to move it to the right and increase size of our layout, again, we will have 3 columns layout. For now, it's very flexible. One thing that I don't like in this case, I would prefer to see the main section under the header section, because aside usually contains some additional information. So firstly, I want to see the main content, and after that, somewhere here is aside. It's also very simple. So we just to change. So in this case, we just need to change order. Again, we work inside main section, main tag with the section tag. And let's change section order to -1. And as you can see, for now we have a header section. Then I see the main content, 2 asides and footer at the bottom. And if we open, for instance, our layout on the desktop, we still be able to see 3 columns layout. And also this layout has some feature which we are called sticky footer. It means that if we remove all content inside main section, our footer will be at the bottom, so nothing changed. And that's why we added flex 1 main. If we don't add it, this is what we have in our layout. I remember that sticky footer was one of the acceptance criteria in our rolling scopes task. I'm not sure that it's valid for now, but for now, you know how it can be done with the Flexbox. And let's again uncomment it our layout. So flexible 3 columns layout with the change in order of the section. And it takes just 28 strings of CSS code, and it's super clear, super simple, and super easy for understanding. Do you agree with me? I guess yes. About media query, you will speak when will be topic responsive web design. So for now, it's just a rule, media, and for this rule we set value screen. It means that all these properties inside of media will be applied for screen, because screen can be changed, for instance, to printer or some monochrome devices and etc. things. So there are a lot of properties for media. And in addition, we add the minimum size for our screen. So that's why these properties, these values will be applied only for screen, which size is less than 650, and it should be a real screen. It's enough for now, I would say. Let's move to the next example. It's a bit simple. I would say it's super simple. It's positioning for model window. And for the second example, we just have flex container, and inside of it we use flex element, flex item. And if we take a look in the styles for flex container, we use such properties, because usually when you open the page and when you click some button and model window is visible under the model windows, usually we can see overlay. I show you that this is the overlay. Our screen is white, or for instance, for body, that. And if we, where is our flex container? Yes. So it's just overlay with the alpha channel. I hope that you remember what does it mean, and with opacity. That's why we, by default, we have a gray overlay here. And usually this is a very common set of properties for such elements. So we set a fixed position. We using this, we show the browser that our container will take full screen width and height, and add some color. Inside of this overlay, we set model windows, and it's just sizes from my head for this model. So the main goal is to put these model windows in the center of the screen. It's very super easy. So again, we just set display flex for container and add, and for now it's just enough to add two properties. Justify content center. We add alignment along main axis. It's a horizontal axis, and not aligned, but align items. Yes, and using this property, we set alignment along cross axis. So to position our model window in the center of a screen is just enough with the flex box to add only 3 properties, and doesn't matter what is the size of our screen, model windows always will be in the center. Okay, let's move to the next example. It's some media object, or maybe, I don't know, piece of news, some article, some news on the blog. Example 3, and in markup, what we have? Again, we have the main wrapper. It's a flex container. Inside of flex container, we have image placeholder and some content. In our case, it's just lorem ipsum paragraph. So the main idea to create a flexible layout for it. Let's open CSS file and add some styles. Again, for container, we add display flex. And in addition, again, we need 2 properties. It's align items. Let it be for now, I don't know, center, and flex direction. By default row. And maybe let's add gap property in 1 EM, or it would be clear for you maybe in 16 pixels. Yes. Gap. It's also a part of Flexbox. I didn't say anything about it because supporting of this property is not good for now, and it's difficult to work with it. So it's just 69% and not very small supporting. That's why you just need to remember about this property and use it in the future. But for now, just remember that it's a gap between elements inside a container. The same behavior will be if I, for instance, add for image, I don't know, margin right 16 pixels. So the same. I prefer to use gap for this example. And I would say that's it for media object. Why? Because using align items, we can set, for instance, flex end, and we can manipulate with the text, or we can set flex start, and it can be at the top. No, flex start at the top of our main block. Yeah, it's much better. Let's keep it in the center. And using flex direction, we can change, for instance, row to row reverse, And for now, our image will be on the right side, or just simple row, and our image will be on the left. So again, just two properties and a lot of manipulation with the content inside of container. And the last, also very interesting example, it's a navigation sidebar. Let's take a look at the markup. So what we have for now, we have again the main wrapper. It's a Flex container as usual. Inside of this Flex container, we have a site section with the red, some kind of red border or orange border. And inside of a site section, we have two navigations. It's just a div blocks, but let's imagine that it's navigation, real navigations. It's a tag, for instance, but for now it's enough using div. And our task is to create a navbar with the splitted navigation. I added all these examples into presentation so you don't miss anything. It's a 3 columns layout. It's again responsive layout with the 3 columns. It's very simple example with the same size of the 2 columns. This is the centering of element and sidebar menu, and our final goal is to create such layout. So this is the sidebar and this is the 2 splitted navigation elements. Okay, let's do this. Open CSS and create. As usual, we add display flags for our container. And we already have some kind of navigation. And for now, let's set min height again to 100 viewport. Well, looks much better. Again, navigation, but it's still not splitted. Let's continue. So now we are going to work with the aside. Aside, it's our main section which contain 2 navigations. Let's set some styles for it. First of all, again, let's transform it from flex element to flex container. And for this goal, we add display flex. Also, let's set the minimum width for it and change it, I don't know, to 180 pixels or maybe 300. Much better. So we have display flex, and now our aside section, it's a flex container. And we have 2 elements inside of it, so let's split it. How we can do it? Again, very simple. For now, inside of aside element, we have also inner main axis, which is going from the left to the right, so in horizontal. So let's change direction to vertical. Use flex direction and column. Cool. So For now, our navigation items take full width of our aside section, and the one step is needed, it's split. For this goal, we use the property justify content to add alignment between these two navigation items. So justify content and space between, and that's it. We have page aside section with the main navigation and some additional navigation like settings or login. That's it. I mean, it's all practical cases, and also these elements was created using Flexbox, as you can see it positioned in the center of the page. And again, yes, I use Flexbox column to transform horizontal navigation to vertical format, and some gap to add space between elements if I remove it. And for instance, we can use margin bottom 1 rem, it's equal 16 pixels. Something going wrong. Oh, it should be added not for flex container, but for flex elements somewhere here. Margin bottom 16. The same result as with the gap, but margin we add for element, gap we add for container. So I guess that's it from my side, and now we have time for your questions. Padding and margin. Very simple. Okay, let's remove gap from here. Margin and gap. Okay, if we need to set space between elements, in our case, it's super easy to understand where is the borders of elements. I mean that each element has gradient. So if we need to add space between this element, we can use margin. And we set margin, I don't know, 50 pixels, but it's only for one. Let's add it for each element. This is a space, as you can see, between all elements. This is the margin, and margin is not a part of element. It's a part of box model, but not of element. In opposite side, padding, it's a space between content and the element border. So if we are going to increase size of element, we can add padding and let it be 25 pixels. And yes, change, but don't change. Okay, I see the problems because I add gradient for the link. Okay, let's imagine that this is the link. It will be It's still possible to add fully, but unfortunately we can't see the result. So in this case, we can see the changes. So padding, and here it will be 20 pixels, and here it will be 400. Okay, maybe a bit more. 100. Super cool. And 5. Wow, cool. So as you can see, padding help us to increase the size of each element. So the padding, it's a space between content, and this border of element, this space, it's 50 from top to content, from content to bottom, and 100 from the left to content, and from content to the right. In this case, we increase size of element. If we wanted to add space between elements, we use margin. So in our case, it's just 550 pixels between elements. It's a red border. And also don't forget about box sizing. So margin out of element, then goes border. In our case, we don't have it at all. Then goes padding. And the content. I hope it's clear. Any other questions? You have a chance to clarify all, I don't know, all black squares, all black topics. Okay, if no more questions, I wish you a good evening, and that's it from my side, I suppose. Thank you again for your attention, for your time. I hope that this lesson was helpful for you.